Well, it is the report that has got Treasury ticked, and today the guy who wrote it here. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. Republican Congressman Darrell Issa today calling it blatant manipulation. Iowa Senator Charles Grassley likening it to another General Motors deal, insisting something is paid off when it is not. Only this ain't about GM. It's about the financial giant AIG. The same AIG the Treasury says taxpayers stand to make money bailing out, but whose math the guy policing that rescue says simply doesn't add up. I'm telling you, 1 week to Election Day, and the spreadsheet has hit the fan. The Treasury says the inspectors got it wrong. The inspector says the new math the Treasury is using just ain't right. Treasury ain't talking. The inspector is. TARP Special Inspector General Neil Barofsky. Well, Inspector, there you go again. They're not too happy at Treasury with what you've come up with.
Well, I really don't know exactly what their complaint is. I mean, what we've reported in this report is a series of facts, and they're all facts that were provided to us by Treasury. And the facts are really inarguable. You know, first of all, when up until October 5th of this year, Treasury had always valued, when it did its estimate of losses in the TARP and losses of AIG, based on a pretty complicated formula that they had gone over with their auditors. It was approved by their auditors, and 6 months ago that was projecting a $45 billion loss for AIG. Second, on October 5th, they changed that methodology, did a different way of calculating a potential loss, and while they disclosed how they came to that number, they did not disclose the fact that they changed that methodology. Third, it is a fact they then did comparisons between the old numbers and the new without disclosing that this apples to oranges comparison had two different methodologies. And fourth, perhaps most significant, they didn't disclose the fact that this number that was put out on October 5th that estimated only a $5 billion loss isn't the number they were going to be able to use going forward in their audited financial statements because their auditors weren't going to sign off on that. So I'm not really sure what the complaint is from Treasury. These are all actual facts, and right, they may not like the conclusion, but those are the facts.
All right, I'm not sure of anything you just said because you're that smart and I'm not. But the gist of it is you say that AIG and our taxpayers being in the hold of them is still a lot more than the administration is saying. They say, and we did get a statement from them, that the charge that Treasury's AIG valuation was done for political gain is pure nonsense. Our calculations on AIG are straightforward, and we've published this for all Americans to see. So why don't you see that?
Well, Neil, first of all, that is a complete straw man argument. I've not accused them of doing a calculation for political purposes, and for them to say that I'm engaging in pure nonsense. I mean, look, this is a classic thing. You've been around long enough. If you can't defend the facts, create some new argument and then call that argument nonsense. The bottom line is this is about a failure in transparency. They changed the methodology for this report, and they didn't disclose the fact that they changed the methodology.
Why would they do that, and to what end? I mean, if you followed that through, then, Neil, what they ended up doing is making taxpayers feel better about a bailout that's been very controversial. I think we've given, what, AIG almost $200 billion, right? And now we're essentially even Steven on the deal. It's meant to sort of calm folks down when you say that's just not the case, right?
I mean, the problem is if you put out a much more optimistic number, which they did, they said, okay, we're going to lose $5 billion on AIG, when before we were projecting $45 billion, and you put out a methodology, if you've changed that methodology, the way that you're calculating that number, it changed between 6 months ago and when they put the number out a few weeks ago, and our point is, you need to disclose that fact. So the American people will know and understand that when they're saying it's a $5 billion loss, one of the reasons why that number has come down is because of a change in the methodology.
All right, but let's go beyond that, Neil. Is it possible here, I'm just trying to give their side of this, even though they're not coming on, that maybe AIG was a special case. You know, it's not just a bank, as you know. It's an insurer, a large financial concern that has its clause in a lot of different businesses. So it isn't quite like some of the other rescued entities, hence the large rescue of AIG itself. Would this be warranting then a different rescue case and a different way of computing that rescue?
Neil, and if they want to say that, I'm not going to quibble with them, but if you're going to change it, disclose it.
And you say they never did. You say they never did.
They said how they calculated the new number, but they didn't say the fact that they changed the methodology, and they didn't say the fact that when their audited financial statements, the official numbers come out, that they're not going to be able to use this methodology that they pushed out with a far more optimistic number.
I understand, Neil. Here's why I think that they tend to think you're driven to sort of a political hit. When you were recently talking about these various rescue programs for 1.3 million homeowners, and that you argued that fewer than half of them have actually benefited from this, creating the appearance that you were raining on this rescue parade.
Well, again, I don't think I'm raining on the parade. I'm just telling the truth. And there's nothing political about the cold, hard facts. And the facts are that Treasury has been citing this success, the fact that more than or approximately 1.3 million people have benefited from the mortgage modification program. We just point out the fact that those include half of those numbers are failed modifications. And in what we put out
failed modifications mean they didn't get anything out of it, or they just lost the home anyway.
Well, they paid anywhere from 3 to 12 months at this as a trial modification, but they never actually got into the program.
So the big hullabaloo over this is not worth the hullabaloo over this.
Well, I think it's not. I don't think failure is success. And I think that, as we detail in this report, a lot of people got hurt by that. These trial modifications, when they fail, not all the time, but in significant numbers, people actually suffer from this. They have their credit ratings hurt. Sometimes they lose their homes that they might not have lost otherwise.
I know you have a limited time with us, and I'm pushing the envelope here. But do you feel then that the government, looking again at changing the foreclosure process, maybe forgiving more principal on this latest wave to force banks to do that, that maybe the fourth, fifth, whatever we call this, is the charm, that this does it, and this is the way to do it?
Well, I think that the current program is not working, and it's not working based on what we thought the number of homeowners that TARP was supposed to help that was originally announced. So I certainly encourage a re-examination of where we are so far, but I don't think you can do that re-examination unless you're upfront and honest about where the program is failing, and to date, Treasury hasn't done that. All
right, so by the way, real quick, you're the Inspector General. I mean, if you want to look at their books and look at it, you have the power to do that, don't you?
That's what we did here, Neil. I mean,
and you looked at them, and what didn't they provide? You noticed immediately something was odd, right?
Well, again, when you see a shift of $40 billion in 6 months, you start asking questions. And again, the answer here was that, at least in part, the change was based on an undisclosed change in methodology, as opposed to...
But you saw that methodology, or did they hide the methodology from you?
Well, again, it wasn't disclosed. It wasn't hidden from us. I mean, we asked the questions and we got the answers, and I don't...
So something was changed, and that's pretty clear.
Something was changed, and they didn't disclose the change.
Gotcha. Neil Barofsky, TARP Special Inspector General. Thank you, Neil, very much.